From our three patriarchs, we are going to join Yaakov Avinu on his journey when he's escaping his parents' house. He's living in a very, trepid way. He has to escape, and he's going to the house of his uncle Lavan. And there are two main reasons why he's going. One is he's fleeing. He's actually escaping because Esav, his brother, wants to kill him after he stole the brachot from him. And second, he's actually going by his parents' commandment, specifically Yitzhak, by the advice of Rivka. Yitzhak and Rivka are together on this, and they're telling Yaakov, go to Lavan, go to Haran for the purpose of finding a wife, for getting married. So there are two goals in Yaakov's trip, in his journey. Our parasha is a very long parasha, and we're going to see something that we don't always see in the Torah, which is a lot of details, very, very minutiously telling us about the single steps, the single conversations, words that we wouldn't care about them in different scenarios. Usually the parasha or the Torah doesn't tell us a lot about the personal lives of the characters, of the protagonists, but with Yaakov, we find that. And it seems that the Torah wants from us to pay attention to all these small acts and learn from them. We always have to read the Torah with something in our mind, in the back of our mind is, what does the Torah, what does Hashem want me to learn from this when I'm reading about this? So let's try to go with Yaakov. We're walking with Yaakov on this journey. Our parasha begins with him when he leaves the house of his parents, and it ends when he is embarking on his journey to come back home. It's very interesting, and many rabbis delve into this, Rabbi Foreman on his parashiot and others, and they look at the form that the Torah gives to the parasha, the chiastic form, the way it begins, it ends. It's like you find the beginning with the end, the second to first to the second to last, the third to first to the third to last, and there are some elements that repeat themselves at the beginning and at the end. So we find the beginning that Yaakov is fleeing, is running away from Esav. At the end, when he's coming back, who is he running away from? From Lavan. He's running away from Lavan. What is the first encounter that Yaakov has on his journey? We still didn't read, but whoever remembers. He has a dream in a specific place, Hamakom, and he dreams with angels. On his way back, there is also angels. When he's leaving, we find a lot the word ha'even, the stone, the rock. There is this element that repeats itself in the story. At the end, also, he's making kind of a pact with Lavan, with a stone. He's kind of showing us, okay, this is the unit. It starts with Yaakov running away from his home. It ends with Yaakov running away from Lavan. And Yaakov seems to be like a person that is a fugitive, is running away. He's encountering too often too many problems. Another thing, before I go inside the text, that we find in our parasha. From one side, I personally feel like I come down, like I was in last week parasha, we were all trying to understand the different opinions, and did Yaakov act in a right way? Who was right? Yitzhak, Rivka, what each one of them thought? Who had to take the brachot? Did Yaakov steal the brachot? Were the brachot going to come anyways to Yaakov? What we find in our parasha from the beginning, as we see Yaakov, his dream, the promises that Hashem gives to him, what message do we get about Yaakov being the successor of Yitzhak and Abraham Avinu? What is the message that we get? That indeed, Yaakov seems to be the chosen one. It seems to be that this is how things have to happen. That our line goes from Abraham, then Abraham has two children, and we leave Ishmael out of the picture, and Yitzhak is the one to continue. Yitzhak has two children, Esav and Yaakov. We leave Esav out and Yaakov is the one to continue. It seems that this is the divine plan. And how do we get to that conclusion? By Hashem's brachot. By the way Hashem blesses Yaakov, and we are going to see the same brachot that Yaakov got from his father Yitzhak. Hashem is going to bless Yaakov with them. So that kind of gives us a reassurance. This was supposed to be the plan. At the same time, we find that Yaakov Avinu's life is a life filled with challenges, with trouble, with problems. In our parasha, we will find so many reminders of his actions when he tricked his dad, when he stole from Esav the Bechorah or the Bracha, and we see midah keneged midah. This is Chachamim always see in the Torah that when Hashem wants to, we can call it punish, or we can call it give us consequences for wrong actions, Hashem is always going to choose consequences that are very similar to the wrong actions that were done. So we see that Yaakov is going to pay a very high price. So did you get what I just said? From one side, he's the one, he's the chosen. He's the one that is going to continue receiving the brachot. From the other side, he is going to pay a price for what he did wrong, for the way he did it. It gives us a little bit of an understanding of Hashem's acting in this world. You can be blessed, you can be protected, you can have everything, but at the same time, if you're a tzaddik, Hashem is going to be strict with you on the little details, on the little things. And that doesn't mean that everything that happens to us is because we know that it can be a test, it can be many things. This is not what it means. But with Yaakov, we see that. And let's go now inside the text. So, of course, as usual, the parasha is enormously long, has too many details. In these chapters, we're going to see Yaakov Avinu building his house, Bet Israel. This is the beginning, I would say, the first Jewish family that will stay as a Jewish family complete. All the children of Yaakov are going to be the tribes of Israel. They're going to be included. No one is going out. Rabbi Yehuda Levi in the book of Kuzari speaks a lot about this. How Hashem was kind of purifying the zera of Abraham. Abraham has two children, but it's still not it. Take half out. Yitzhak has two children, take Esav out. Only now, after 3 generations, Yaakov Avinu is going to have all his children going in the ways of Hashem. So, you know what? I want to see, what do you remember? Just throw ideas that you remember, because this is a text that we've learned so many times, and everybody knows the parasha since preschool. So we see Yaakov coming to Laban's house. What do you remember that is going to happen in this parasha? Don't by the order, doesn't matter. Tell me things about him, about him building the house, about his children, about what happens to him. What do you remember? He's working for Laban for 7 years. He is hoping to get Rachel, and then he has to work 7 extra years for Leah. What else? What do we know about these 2 girls, Rachel and Leah? They're sisters, yes? Okay, but it's good always, whenever you bring something like this, it's good to mention this is a midrash, this is a perush. This is not what we see in the Ketub. There's one opinion. I will add to that opinion, there is one opinion that says that Rachel and Leah were also twins. And the difference between them was the same difference that was between Esav and Yaakov of minutes. And that's how also we can understand that they were so identical twins, that they were so similar. That's how they could trick Yaakov. So according to the Midrash, these twins were supposed to be for these 2 twins. Leah and Rachel were supposed to be for Esav and Yaakov. And Leah knew about it, and she knew that Esav was a Rashad, and she prayed so much to Hashem, and she cried so much to Hashem. That's why Einei Leah Rakot, her eyes were small, and that's how she merited instead to marry Yaakov. But I want to emphasize this is a midrash. And what we find whenever we see a midrash or a perush is that you can always find another one that gives you a total different approach. It's one way of seeing things. You never heard of it. Because usually we speak more about the pshat, but yes, there is an idea, and then it happens again with Dinah, the same direction of. I think Chachamim want to perhaps to teach us that even that it was a complicated family with the 4 wives and so much rivalry and dividing the attention of Yaakov and the motherhood, etc. Nevertheless, it was a great zechut to be part of building the house of Yaakov, of building the family that will become Bet Israel. Okay, anything else that you want to mention that you remember? Rachel is barren. Actually, both of them are barren. Only that because the Torah says, "Vayiftach Hashem et Rachma," Hashem opens her womb, and Leah is the one that has children. For Rachel, is more difficult. She's really suffering a lot from that. Okay, let's go inside. So open your Chumashim on page 145, the beginning of Parashat Vayetse. Let's see a little bit how is the beginning of the journey of Yaakov. So he's going from Eretz Israel to Haran. It's a long journey. It's not a short, it's not 100 steps. It for sure took him some days. But the Torah is not telling us a lot about his journey. The Torah is going to mention only 2 episodes. The episodes where he gets to a place where he sleeps and he dreams. And also the Torah is going to tell us when he's about to enter Haran, his encounter at the entrance where the well is, and we're going to see about that. So I'm reading. Yaakov departed from Beersheba and went toward Haran. He encountered the place and spent the night there because the sun had set. He took from the stones of the place which he arranged around his head and lay down in that place. And he dreamt, and behold, a ladder was set earthward and its top reached heavenward. And behold, angels of God were ascending and descending on it. And behold, Hashem was standing over him, and he said, I am Hashem, God of Abraham, your father, and God of Yitzchak. The ground upon which you are lying, to you will I give it, and to your descendants. Your offspring shall be as the dust of the earth, and you shall spread out powerfully westward, eastward, northward, and southward. And all the families of the earth shall bless themselves by you and by your offspring. Behold, I'm with you. I will guard you wherever you go, and I will return you to this soil, for I will not forsake you until I will have done what I have spoken about you. Yaakov awake from his sleep and said, surely Hashem is present in this place, and I did not know. And he became frightened and said, how awesome is this place. This is none other than the abode of God, and this is the gate of the heavens. Yaakov arose early in the morning and took the stone that he placed around his head and set it up as a pillar, and he poured oil on its top, and he named that place Bet-El. However, Luz was the city's name originally. Then Yaakov took a vow, saying, if God will be with me, will guard me on this way what I'm going, will give me bread to eat and clothes to wear, and I return in peace to my father's house, and Hashem will be a God to me, then this stone which I have set up as a pillar, shall become a house of God, and whatever you will give me, I shall repeatedly tithe it to you. So what we see, words that are repeating themselves here, we find you can count the makom, the word makom, place, is mentioned several times. We find the word vehine, vehine is behold, and hine, what does it mean, behold? And hine, like I'm coming here and hine, I see the lights are on. What is the hine? What is an element of surprise? Like everything is a surprise for Yaakov. Who is Yaakov? How is his mind? Yaakov escaped. He's a fugitive. He's afraid. Perhaps he's looking back if Esav is coming after him. Because he had to escape, he's penniless. He has nothing with him. There is a midrash that says that he had some things and a substance to kill him, and at the end they stole from him everything. But whatever it is, Yaakov has nothing with him. He's very, very, what would be the word? Vulnerable. He feels very, very vulnerable. He left mommy's home, his parents, everything that is known to him. And it's not like Avraham Avinu, Lech Lecha, going because of Hashem is telling you, I'm going to promise you a bright future. Yaakov is escaping his parents' house because somebody wants to kill him. His own brother wants to kill him. So his state of mind is of, I'm scared. I am worried. I don't know what's going to happen. So when you are alone on the journey and you're about to sleep, what is around you? It's very dark. It's night. It's scary. You imagine you have to sleep in the middle of nowhere. Your feeling is a feeling of I don't know if I'm going to survive the night. What can happen to me? Animals, people that come to kill me or to steal. So he's very, very vulnerable. And then he sleeps and he takes from the rocks to make a pillow. I don't know, whoever has been studying Torah for a while, we always have studied what Rashi says about this, that all the rocks were fighting among themselves. They wanted Yaakov to put his head. But I'm going to move from that and see a little bit more of what happens here. What is that happens to Yaakov when he's sleeping? First of all, the fact that it says a few times, makom, 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 the place, Chachamim were trying to understand what place are we talking about? What is this place? And some say that this place was Makom. Yes, it is recording on Zoom. It's going to take a little bit more time, but it's recording. What is the Makom? So, Hashem's presence. Some rabbis say every time that we see in the Torah Makom, it refers to Har Moriah, where the Bet HaMikdash is going to be destroyed, which means that this place is really a special place. The place itself has a meaning. Others will say, no, it just means that this is where Yaakov is going to realize through his dream that Hashem's presence is going to be with him wherever he goes. It doesn't matter where you are. You left your parents' house, you're going to Laban's house, but always remember, when you have Hashem with you, you take Hashem with you, so everywhere you should feel protected. So what is the dream? Yaakov dreams about a sulam, a ladder, mutzav arza, that the feet are standing on the ground, and the head of the ladder is getting to heaven. So there are many, many mefarshim, many explanations. Do you remember any of them? And malachim olim veyordim, but there are angels that are going up and down. So some mefarshim will say these angels represent, because how can the angels be going up and then coming down? Angels usually are supposed to come down and then going back. It's saying here they're going up and they're coming down. So what do these angels represent? According to some mefarshim, is the angels or the emissaries of Hashem that protected him in Eretz Israel are going back to heaven, and new angels are coming down from heaven to protect him now in the diaspora. Like, he needs a different type of protection. Even if we don't think about angels literally, the protection that you need in Eretz Israel is different than the protection that you need when you go to the diaspora. And you can now tell me, actually, today, what protection do we need in Eretz Israel, and what protection do we need in the diaspora? What is the difference? Try to think. Today, what is the main risk in Israel? Enemies. So we need protection from the enemies. What is the protection that we need the most in the diaspora? Assimilation, right? So for us not to get lost in our spirituality, not to get blended with our environment. So perhaps it refers to that. Others would say, actually, this sulam represents every person. The sulam itself is every one of us, or the tzaddik. How are we supposed to live our lives? We are supposed to be standing on our feet, living in this world, Verosho Magia Shamaima, always striving to grow spiritually and connected with spiritual matters, but with our feet in this world. Like we cannot live like the angels. Oh, don't talk to me, I'm with Hashem all the time. Like, oh, I don't go with friends because I don't want to make any sin, or I don't want. We are supposed to live in this world, in this material world, and it's very challenging, and stay connected with Hashem spiritually. So this is two of the perushim that we can speak about the sulam. Others will speak about our enemies, the malachim that go up and down. It refers to the rise of nations that are against us. But Hashem is showing Yaakov, don't worry, they're going to come down at one point. There is a lot to say about this. Look at Pasuk Yud Gimel, והנה Hashem ניצב עליו. And Hashem is on top of it or next to it, which means Hashem is there to protect Hashem and to protect Yaakov. And now Hashem is going to give Yaakov the same brachot that Abraham received and that Yitzchak received. Find inside of the text, girls, try to find the two elements that we see that always exist in the brachot that Hashem gave to the Avot. What are the two elements? Offspring and the land. So Pasuk Yud Gimel, the ground upon which you are lying, to you will I give it, and to your descendants, which means the land. And the offspring is Pasuk Yud Dalet, 14. Your offspring shall be as the dust of the earth, and you shall spread out powerfully. And Hashem is speaking an expansion that is geographically to the east, to the west, to the north, to the south. And another element that is not part of the brachot, but we saw it happening with Abraham several times, when Hashem is telling Abraham, Lech Lecha, when Hashem is telling Abraham about the destruction of Sodom, when Hashem is speaking with Abraham about the Akedah, after the Akedah, when Hashem is telling Yitzchak not to leave Eretz Israel, Hashem repeats this all the time. V'nivrechu becha kol mishpechot ha'adama. All the families of the earth shall bless themselves by you and by your offspring. So this is not a bracha for us, but this is a consequence for us, Am Israel. The fact that we are blessed by Hashem makes that the people that are around you usually are blessed by us. Okay, what is next? Hashem is promising Yaakov. What is Hashem promising Yaakov? I am with you, I will guard you, I will return you here, I will not forsake you. Like Hashem is speaking to this Yaakov that is afraid. Don't be afraid, I'm protecting you, I will be with you. And Yaakov, when he wakes up, he says, wow, Hashem is here and I didn't know. And he's feeling like very overwhelmed. And now he calls the place Bethel, and Yaakov takes a vow saying, if Hashem will be with me and will protect me and will give me lechem lechol ubeged libosh, bread to eat and clothing to wear, and I will return to my father's house, and Hashem will be a God to me, then this stone I will set up as a pillar and shall become a house of God, and I will make master, a tithe from everything I have. What are the questions that we have? When after Hashem promised Yaakov, I'm going to protect you, I'm going to be with you, Yaakov says, if Hashem will be with me, I will do ABC. What is the question here? Where is Yaakov's trust on Hashem? How is Yaakov saying, oh, Hashem, if you protect me, I will do this. Hashem just said, I'm going to protect you. I'm going to be with you. I'm not going to abandon you. So how do we explain it? 3 ways of explaining it. One way is that actually things didn't happen in this order. The order that is brought in the Torah is not exactly the order. First, Yaakov asked from Hashem to protect him, and then Hashem protected him. That's one way of explaining. Another way of explaining it, Yaakov is not saying, Hashem, if you protect me, but Yaakov is mostly saying, when you protect me. Oh, Hashem, you're going to protect. Okay, so when this happens, that you protect me, and I come back home safely, then I'm going to come to this place and make a mizbeach, and then I'm going to do myself from everything I have. What is Yaakov asking? This is a beautiful thing to see about how the tzaddikim of Am Yisrael refer to materialism. From one side, we say the Sulam reflects that we need to be living in this world and being spiritual at the same time. From the other side, we see when the tzaddik, when the Jewish just is asking for material bracha, what is he asking? What I need. Hashem, I want you, please, to bless us for us to have what we need. In our case, should be to have what to eat, to have a house to live, to have money to pay tuition for yeshiva for the children. Like we want to live well. We don't want to be lacking. We don't make a vote of poverty. We don't want to be in that situation where we say, no, I don't care about that. But Yaakov is saying, lechem leechol ubeged lilbosh. Give me bread to eat and clothing to wear. It doesn't mean that he wants to eat only bread, but that's how food is usually referred it in the Torah. Lechem means if I want to have what to eat and what to wear. We always speak about this. What does it mean that I want to ask? We need to learn from Yaakov also how to pray to Hashem. When I pray to Hashem, Hashem, I want to have that. The tefillah of Yaakov is complete. He could have said, Hashem, give me bread and clothing. But he's not saying bread and clothing. He's saying bread to eat and clothing to wear. Yaakov is very wise. He knows I can have a lot. I can have material bracha, but sometimes I cannot enjoy it. I cannot enjoy my food because, I don't know, I have a toothache, or I am not well enough, or whatever. Or I can have my closet full of clothing, and then we have the coronavirus and you cannot go anywhere. So Yaakov is asking from Hashem, give me those brachot and give me also the bracha to be able to enjoy them. Okay? So now, remember for the parashiot to come that Yaakov's promise is that he's going to come back El Bet Avi, to the house of his father, right? And he made, according to Radak, he made this rock, this stone, as a siman derech, as a sign for him to know when he comes back where to stop. At this moment, Yaakov is not offering any korban to Hashem. Why? He doesn't have anything. He just makes a monument, puts a little bit of oil for him to remember, this is where I slept, this is where I dreamed, this is where I got from Hashem the promise to protect me. Okay, so now, yes. Okay, I didn't say the third explanation. The third explanation is that the tzaddikim, the way they understand Hashem's promises is, I need to be deserving of it. They are so much the opposite of entitlement that they say, even when Hashem has promised me to be with me, what if I don't act properly, and then I am not deserving of the brachot of Hashem? So Yaakov is kind of saying, I hope to be able to be deserving of what you are telling me, Hashem. Okay, and it could also be that he didn't understand that this is included. That you want to say, okay, Hashem, you're going to protect me. I'm going to have food. I'm going to have clothing. I'm going to have. We don't exactly know what it referred when he's saying this. Okay.
Rabbanit, I have a question. Yes. Rabbanit?
I listen, yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Is it possible, even though we are so, it's so hard for us to believe that our avot did not have the strongest emunah, is it possible that at this moment in his life where he just left his parents' house abruptly, all alone, he has nothing?
I cannot hear you.
He has nothing. So it's beautiful that Hashem is giving him this reassurance, but at this very moment, he doesn't really feel it, or he doesn't see that there's going to be such a bright future for him. Is it okay to say that Yaakov Avinu was having a down moment in his emunah, or we can't say that?
I suppose that you can say that. I didn't find it in the Mefarshim, and I didn't read all the Mefarshim, so it will be interesting to find that. It could be, but all the approach of our rabbis, and I really, in my class, I try to, in our class, the way we study Torah, we really try as much as we can to see our avot as human beings. Like, even that the approach of most of the mefarshim has always been to see them as heroes from the beginning. Some midrashim will say that they already knew the Torah, that they kept the Torah, and they were this and they were that. And but something interesting that I have listened many times from Rabbi Chaim Sabato is that the way we read the Torah, and especially the stories about the Avot, is usually we see two levels. We see the human behaviors, and we see the other level as them as patriarchs, that they already knew that they're going to form the nation. But if we want to see it in a human level, of course, yes, Yaakov was afraid, and perhaps Hashem would get a little bit upset at him. You know, when Sarai Menu, you remember, I'm sure you remember, when Sarai Menu hears that she's going to have a child and she's old, and she laughs, Hashem comes to Abraham saying, Lama ze tzachaka Sarah, why is she laughing? We don't see reaction from Hashem here, telling him, why don't you believe me? You understand? So we saw that Hashem had that expectation from Sarah, that she should believe. If I'm telling you that you're going to have a child, doesn't matter that you are 200 years old. If I'm saying it, I'm Hashem. And at this moment, we are expecting our avot in their journey already to know who is Hashem and the powers that Hashem has. Don't forget that the knowledge of Hashem started with Abraham. There is already Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and Yaakov lived with his father, with his grandfather. He studied. It's not that he's encountering Hashem for the first time. But still, of course, we are human beings, and for sure it could be that he's so scared that even when Hashem is telling him, I'm going to protect you, he's still scared. But I personally wouldn't go to understand this that way, because I don't see Hashem rebuking him for his lack of faith. But is that human to be that way? Of course it is. Okay, I'm continuing, and let's go to the second episode that the Torah is showing us about the journey of Yaakov. So he is continuing after this dream. It says here, Yaakov lifted his feet. So he wakes up from this bed and he lifted his feet. What do you mean he lifted his feet? We know that every person that is about to walk has to lift the feet. So it's very interesting that Chachamim divide themselves in the way of explaining this. Some say, after this promise of Hashem, for Yaakov, the journey becomes much more light. And so I feel so blessed that I'm going so happy. It's very easy for me. Like whenever you know that you have, I don't know, you're about to encounter a treasure or things are going to be good for you, it's easy for you, the journey. Others would say the opposite, because he's about to leave this place, the makom, the place where he felt the closeness of Hashem. It's difficult for him to walk. He doesn't want to go. He wants to stay here. Here I feel that Hashem is with me. Here I feel that Hashem has shown his face to me. So according to this mefarshim, for Yaakov it's difficult to go. Anyways, whatever it is, Yaakov is leaving and he's going to the land of the easterners. He looked, and again, behold, again, it's like everything is new for him. Like when you are going on the new journey, everything is, oh, I arrived. Oh, there is this. Oh, there is that. So he arrives, and behold, a well in the field. You know, how many times did we find wells already? With Rivka, where else? Yitzchak digging the wells. And the wells can be a physical place where I dig and I bring water, but a well represents a lot also. What do you feel when you see when you read about the well? What is the well representing for us? It's water, it's safety, it's life. What else? The Torah. En Maim la Torah, the well is the source of knowledge, of spirituality. A well also represents that if I want water, I need to dig, I need to work. And that even that in the surface, it looks like a dry place, if I work, if I dig, if I make the effort, I'm going to find it. So it also represents effort, represents patience. So well has a lot of symbolic meaning. And very often in our Torah, in our Bible, the well is connected with marriage. We see it with Yitzchak and Rivka. We see it with Rachel and Yaakov. Where else did we see marriage with the well? Tzipporah and Moshe, right? It is the meeting point. Usually it's the entrance to the town. It's where everybody gathers around. But it's also water. Is what will sustain life, will assure continuity. Anyways, what happens here? Yaakov has a chit chat with the people of the place, and they speak, and he tries to ask them. And behold, I'm reading Pasuk 2. He looked, and behold, a well in the field, and behold, 3 flocks of sheep lay there beside it. For from that well they would water the flocks, and the stone over the mouth of the well was large. When all the flocks would be assembled there, they should roll the stone from the mouth of the well and water the sheep, and they would put back the stone over the mouth of the well in its place. So the narrator of the Torah is telling us, why are flocks and shepherds there? Because usually the minhag, the custom that they had, is wait until everybody gathers there, and then together they would move the stone, and together they would drink. Yaakov said to them, my brothers, where are you from? Yaakov is trying to be nice. Yaakov wants the human touch. He wants to start relationships. He's coming alone. He's fleeing his brother. He's calling these people my brothers. He's looking for closeness. He's looking for warmth. But they answer very dry. From where are you? He said, we're from Haran. And then he continues. He said to them, do you know Laban, the son of Nahor? And they say, we know. You understand when you don't want to give a conversation? If I ask you, do you know where is the broccoli? And you say me, yes, I know. No, yes, I know. Go from here and do this and do that. They don't continue the conversation. Then he said to them, it is well with him. They answered, it is well. And see, his daughter Rachel is coming with the flock. He's kind there saying, you want conversation? Here is his daughter. Talk to her. We don't want conversation. You are a stranger to us. He said, look, the day is still long. It is not yet time to bring the livestock in, water the flock, and go on grazing. But they said, we will be unable to until all the flocks will have been gathered, and they will roll the stone of the mouth of the well. We will then water the flock. While he was still speaking with them, Rachel had arrived with her father's flock, for she was a shepherdess. And it was when Yaakov saw Rachel, daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the flock of Laban, his mother's brother, Yaakov came forward and rolled the stone of the mouth of the well and watered the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother. Then Yaakov kissed Rachel, and he raised his voice and wept. Yaakov told Rachel that he was her father's relative, that he was Rebekah's son. Then she ran and told her father. How many things we can learn from this short encounter of Yaakov with the shepherds, with Rachel. Number 1, Yaakov is a man that cares about honesty. He cannot see that the workers are wasting their time. Why are you here? Everybody was like this and chatting and talking. Why are you here? Or the Yom Gadol, there is still time. You should be either working, or if your sheep are thirsty, give them to drink and leave and work. And we will see that musariyut, that ethical behavior of Yaakov throughout the parasha. It is important to point it out, because why is the Torah telling me all these details? Because the Torah wants to teach me and show me that our avot, our patriarch, besides of having met and discovered Hashem, and besides of wanting to follow in his ways, were very, very honest people, yesharim. And this is the real, we always say, this is the real tzaddikut. How do we measure when a person is really a tzaddik? Whenever you see him connected with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, wanted to keep his Torah, wanted to follow his way, but at the same time, very, very honest with the other people. It doesn't go only ben adam lamakom, it goes ben adam lachavero as well. What else do we learn from here? When he sees Rachel, everybody remembers this episode as love at first sight, right? As opposed to the marriage between Yitzchak and Rivka, that they didn't see each other, and Yitzchak brings her to his tent and then he loves her. Here we see like love at first sight. So I am going to take a little bit away of that romanticism today, because yes, there are many opinions that say that this was really love, but not, this year I read with different eyes, following the shiur of Rabbi Gad Dishi from Alon Shvut. He was saying, if it was love at first sight, just saw her and her beauty is what attracted him, and he kissed her, why didn't he do it immediately? We see that first, what does he do? What does he do? Pasuk 10. Yaakov came forward and rolled the stone. First, he moves the stone. He waters the sheep of Lavan. Whatever Rivka did with the camels of Eliezer, Yaakov is doing with the sheep of Lavan. And after that, he kissed Rachel. And I also read a new interpretation this year that even the kiss of Rachel, for some interpretation, it could be Vayashk, Vayshak, and Vayashk. In Hebrew, Neshika, Vayshak, and he kissed, and Vayashk, and he watered, could be interchangeable. So it could be that what it means that Yaakov gave her to drink as well, the same way that that Rivka gave to drink the camels and Eliezer. So perhaps Yaakov gave to drink the sheep and Rachel. But most of the Mefarshim would say that it was a kiss, not necessarily a kiss of love. Could be a kiss, again, think about Yaakov. He's lonely, didn't know if he's going to get safely, didn't know if he's going to find his family, didn't know, and suddenly he finds a cousin, then he kisses her. Now we know that Rachel was very, very young. So, she still wasn't a woman of marriageable age. That's why perhaps the waiting of 7 years to marry her. She was young. What does it tell us? Another point that we learn by just looking at the Pshat about Lavan and about the wealth of Lavan. Who is taking care of his sheep? His daughter, Rachel Pito Aktana. His youngest daughter, Rachel. What does it mean about the amount of sheep? For sure, he didn't have a lot. And we see that if Lavan becomes wealthy, and we will see that throughout the parasha, that wealth came to Lavan because of Yaakov. V'nivrechu becha kol mishpechot ha'adama. The families that come with you, that are close to you, are being blessed by you. So Lavan at the beginning wasn't so wealthy. He becomes wealth because of Yaakov. And then he cries. Why does Yaakov cry? Who remembers? Mefarshim. One Mefarsh says, he saw the Ruach HaKodesh, he foresaw that she's not going to be buried. We know that Rachel is buried outside of Marat HaMachpelah, but derech, on the journey coming back. So he saw that and it was very painful because Chachamim understand the love between Yaakov and Rachel as a real, not only because of her beauty, benafsho kshura benafsha, their souls were connected. He knew that she's going to marry him. So she will not, another Mefaresh that he saw that she's not going to be marrying him as they planned from the beginning. Another interpretation would be, he's crying because he's really, oh, finally I found somebody from the family, Baruch Hashem, I'm with you, Rachel. So it's a very normal, natural cry of, of emotion when you are in such a vulnerable state of mind. Okay, let's continue. And I'm going to try to do it very fast because what happens now, perhaps without reading inside, Yaakov is coming to Lavan. Who is running here? Who is running? Who is running to Lavan's house? Rachel is running, following the same image of Rivka running to her parents' house. It shows Achnasat Orchim. It was common in Haran, the midot of Achnasat Orchim. She's coming, she tells Lavan, in the Pshat, in the Psukim, we see very natural behavior of Lavan. Welcome, you are from our family, stay with us, be with us. Chachamim, in their Midrashim, they tend sometimes to really make us understand from the beginning who is the character that we're dealing with, and they portray a very negative Lavan. What do they say about Lavan? When Lavan is running and is welcoming Yaakov, he's doing that because he remembers when his sister Rivka was being proposed by Eliezer for Yitzchak. And what happened then? He had a lot of wealth, a lot of gifts, a lot of things. So he's expecting that. So according to that, in those interpretations of Chachamim, Lavan's behaviors are based on that. And they say that not because they want to show us being Lavan, they're basing themselves on what we see about Lavan later, what he's interested and how much he's tricking Yaakov. So he ran towards him, embraced him, kissed him, took him to his house. The Midrashim say he embraced him, he was touching to see if he has something on his body. He kissed him, he was checking inside his mouth if he has precious stones or some wealth hidden in there. So, and then Yaakov tells Lavan or what has happened to him. And then he said, doesn't matter, you are my flesh. Like Yaakov perhaps is saying, I'm sorry, I bring without nothing, I am escaping. Doesn't matter, you are our family. And then he stayed with him a month's time. It means that this month that Yaakov stayed with Lavan, we could think that he's just sitting and being served. No, we know that he was working. How do we know that Yaakov was working? Because of Pasuk 15. Lavan said to Yaakov, just because you are my relative, should you serve me for nothing? It means that Yaakov didn't stay as a guest. From day one, Yaakov was working for Lavan. And then he's asking me, what are your wages? Look here on Pasuk Tetvav, on the Hebrew, Vayomer Lavan leYaakov, Hachi, Achi Ata. Hachi, we find that word only one another time. Moshe defined it for us. When Esav is telling Yaakov that because you took me many the Bechorah, we will find in our chapter many hints that remind of what happened in Perek 27 or 28 between Yaakov and Esav. It's like, you are going to see what's coming to you, Yaakov, because of how you tricked your father. Now you are going to be tricked by Lavan. Chachamim throughout the whole episode will really find many similarities between what's going to happen to Yaakov now with what he did with his brother Esav and with his father Yitzchak. So what is the plan? Lavan is telling Yaakov, okay, don't work for me without any payment. Let me pay for you. What is the price? But Lavan is kind of happy with Yaakov's. Yes, Moshe found it? 139. It's so good to have Moshe in the class that she's always finding us the psukim. After Yitzchak tells Esav that Yaakov stole his beracha, Esav says, Hachi kara shemo Yaakov. Hachi, it is because his name is Yaakov. The same word Hachi is used here by Lavan when he tells Yaakov, Hachi, you are my flesh and blood. Because you are my relative, should you work for me for nothing? Is a word that we don't find anywhere else, only in these two places. And when Chachamim find the same wording, they connect. The Torah wanted to hint to something. Okay, so now Yaakov is offering the price. Yaakov loved Rachel, Pasuk 18. Before he offers the price, the Torah is describing the girls. Lavan had two daughters. The name of the older one was Leah, and the name of the younger one was Rachel. Leah's eyes were tender, while Rachel was beautiful of form and beautiful of appearance. Again, it reminds us of the Torah describing Yaakov and Esav and their physical description. Here also is describing it. So Yaakov loved Rachel, so he said, I will work for you 7 years for Rachel, your younger daughter. Like Yaakov is offering like a business transaction. It kind of makes us feel bad. But it seems that this was the laws of the place. This was the language of the place. You want to get married? Pay. How much are you paying me for my daughter? So Yaakov is very generous. I want 7 years. And what is Yaakov? And Lavan said, it is better I give her to you than to another man. Remain with me. So Yaakov worked for 7 years. And the Torah is telling us, I think, the most romantic pasuk in the whole entire Torah. And they seemed to him a few days because of his love for her. Where did we find the expressions few days? Moshe find it for us, or whoever wants to find it. Few days is what Rivka is telling Yaakov when she tells him, go to my brother until the rage of your brother will pass. She also speaks about few days. That was the plan. Yaakov should have been away from home for a few days, but we know it is not going to be few days. How many years is Yaakov going to be away? 20. 7 and 7 years that he worked for the girls, and then he stays 6 more years. We're going to see later. Why did he stay extra? That's I read a whole shiur on that. That was very critical of Yaakov actually, because he worked 7 years and 7 years until he had Rachel. During these 14 years, he had 11 children. And then he's telling Lavan, okay, now I am going back. And Lavan tell him, no, I try to find out from where the blessings that I have came. Lavan says, I went to all my how you say, magicians, or those that tell me the future, to tell me all this bracha that I have, from where did it come? And everybody told me that my bracha came from you. So Lavan convinces Yaakov, stay with me more. Stay. And Yaakov wasn't paid for 14 years. He was working for free, like a servant, like a slave. He just got married with his 2 wives. But he's working 14 years and you don't get any wages, any salary. So now Lavan is offering. So Yaakov decides to stay, to make some money, to leave the house with some wealth. But he stays for 6 years. During 6 years, not more children. He's just working and making money until he needs to leave. And I went off topic, but doesn't matter. It's good for us to have a little bit of rounded idea. He leaves, and we see 2 things happening that happened always. Like, it's an interesting subject to see from Avraham Avinu until now. We already saw a few times the relationship with the people of the place, with the non-Jewish people. What happens now with Lavan? Yes? Anybody? Okay. When Yaakov is about to leave, at this moment Yaakov is very poor. He has nothing. But Lavan says, stay with me. And then Yaakov does what he does with the maklot, with the sticks, because he makes tricks. So the sheep that are going to be born, anybody knows about this? Okay, Lavan tells Yaakov, what do you want to get now? You're going to stay to work for me. And Yaakov says, okay, let's separate the sheep. And from now on, every sheep that is born that has, let's say, some, not Flemish, spots or specific signs, they will be for me, okay? So all the spots that you have now, take them. And let's separate 3 days distance. Okay, so from now on, whatever is born with those signs are going to be for me. So Yaakov uses some techniques of genetics that he knew, and he becomes very, very, very wealthy. Like suddenly all the sheep that are born are with spots. So then 2 things happen. One thing is that Yaakov, Lavan gets very jealous and hating, and like he loved Yaakov, called Od Yaakov was only working and not succeeding. But now that Yaakov is successful and he has wealth and he has this, so Lavan tells him, all what you have is mine, your wealth is mine, your daughters are mine, your grandchildren are mine. That's how he sees Yaakov. And Yaakov wants to leave and he has to escape. He's not living with Lavan's blessing. At the same time, in a dream, Hashem is telling Yaakov, leave. In the dream that he dreams about the sheep at the same time, Hashem is telling him, you used to dream about angels. This was Yaakov. Yaakov was a man that dreamt about spirituality, growth, connecting to Hashem. Now in the house of Lavan, after 20 years, you are dreaming about money. Time to go. You're going to get lost here. So that's how Yaakov is told by Hashem also to leave. Now, I need at least one more class. We have to have a class about Rachel and Leah. It's the most beautiful part of the parasha. So the 5 minutes. Oh no, I don't have 5 minutes. Do I have 5 minutes? Whoever needs to leave, leave, because I'm sorry I've been starting late, the class, since we moved to this area. I hope to get on top of starting on time. Let me just give you 5-10 minutes. Whoever needs to leave, please leave. About these two sisters, Rachel and Leah. So Yaakov and Rachel were supposed to get married. Lavan tricks Yaakov and he gives him Leah. So many beautiful things to see in the text. Like it was night, and I was listening to Rabbi Dishi, and he was saying, the night that speaks about the darkness that did not allow Yaakov to realize that he was tricked, that he was given Leah instead of Rachel, reminds us of the perpetual darkness that Yitzhak lived in. Yitzhak was blind. So again, midah keneged midah. You tricked your father because your father couldn't see. Now you'll see. You will also be in a darkness area. Another thing, Lavan, what does he do in the wedding? First, a mishteh. Mishteh usually it has a connotation of drinking. It was a plan. Let Yaakov drink. Let him be, in a state that he doesn't know exactly what's happening around him. It seems that Yaakov also bring wine to Yitzhak. When Yaakov is telling Lavan in the morning when he sees Leah, he says, Lama rimitani, why did you cheat me? I worked for you 7 years. The cheat was that I get Rachel. And he says, Lo yasehen bimkomen. We are not used to this type of behaviors as you did. Latet et tzeira lifnei habechira, to give the youngest before the older. We have an order. You didn't respect in your home that there's supposed to be an order. The elder deserves certain things. The second one is to wait. You think that you can move everything around? Not here. So permanently there is many like hints to Yaakov. What you did was wrong. What you did was wrong. What you did was wrong, and you are paying the price. Okay, so we know the Midrashim. We spoke about it in Yom Petirat Rachel Imenu, about the greatness of Rachel. This is a Midrash. And this is also written in the Gemara, that whenever Yaakov, in the Gemara comes in a different way. I will tell you because it's different. In Masechet Megillah, it says that when Yaakov met Rachel in the well, he asked her, will you marry me? We don't see that in the Torah. In the Torah, we see only after 1 month of working with Lavan, he's asking for Rachel's hand, right? He did. But according to this Midrash, will you marry him? Me and Rachel told him, but you have to know, my father is a tricker. He's a deceitful person. He's going to deceive. What kind of deceit? She says, I have another sister, so he will try to give you my sister. So Yaakov said, I'm his brother. What does he mean? I'm a brother on deceit. Don't worry, I also know about deceit. I know about that language, about that business. And she said, what? A righteous person can be deceitful? He says, yes. Whenever you are treating with deceit, you can use deceit. That was the answer according to the Midrash. And then they make some signs that they're going to use. Whenever Lavan tries to cheat Yaakov, they know that only Rachel knows the signs, and only with her he will be able to get married. What we know is that Rachel felt bad for her sister last minute, and she gave the simanim to her sister. I was listening to a different interpretation and said, wait a minute, Rachel doesn't want to make her sister be embarrassed, and she doesn't care about Yaakov, to embarrass him and to make him be harmed. So different ways of understanding the Torah. Anyways, at the end of the day, they're both married with Yaakov. Yaakov has to work 7 extra years to get Rachel, but he gets Rachel 7 days after. He doesn't have to wait 7 more years. Like he's marrying the 2 sisters 7 days apart. So in 7 days, he got married with 2 girls. The way it worked at that time, you have a 10 for Rachel, a 10 for Leah, and I suppose they have some arrangements when he's with one, when he's with the other, I suppose. So Hashem, and the Torah tells us that he loved more Rachel. Now, the fact that he loved Rachel more doesn't mean that he didn't love Leah. We don't exactly know, but Leah felt snua. She felt hatred. Because when you see, I cannot imagine a husband with 2 women, but when you see even between parents and children, if one child feels that the father or mother are loving more the other, he feels they don't love me. They don't feel they love him more. You understand? When you say that there is more love for God, you don't feel that, you feel that they don't love me. Anyways, Hashem blesses Leah with children to feel that emptiness or that tsar or that pain that she has for not having the love of her husband. But Rachel is barren. So you see that tension between the two sisters. Rachel wants the children. Leah wants the love of her husband. And at one point, Rachel, one of the children of Leah, Reuben, is coming with flowers for his mother. And these flowers, they tell us, dudaim. Either it was nice flowers and it only represented the love of a child for his mother, and that's what Rachel wanted very much, or they had like an element aphrodisiac that will bring to fertility. So Rachel wants the flowers because she sees my sister is using these plants and they have been so helpful for her. I also want them, perhaps I will have a child. So Leah tells Rachel, it's not enough for you that you took my husband, now you also want the flowers? So we kind of don't understand is who took the husband from whom? Who took the husband? Rachel or Leah? Leah took from Yaakob, or from Rachel, or Rachel took from Leah? Leah feels, I got married first, and you came second. If you wouldn't have come, my husband would be loving me. I wouldn't have to think about you.
But it wasn't her, it was her dad. It wasn't like Rachel saying, she didn't really have a voice.
Yes, but it's about how they feel it. It's about how they feel it. Leah felt, if you wouldn't be here, I would be happy. And also Leah was married with Yaakov before Rachel. Rachel can be also upset at Leah, but Leah perhaps didn't have a choice. But that's how she feels. My life could have been perfect if you wouldn't be here. Anyways, with this I finish. At one point, Rachel gets very, very jealous of her sister, and she tells Yaakov, Hava li banim ve'im ain meta anochi. Give me children, if not, I'm dying. We find a language like that, similar to Rivka, when she feels a pregnancy that is complicated, she says, Lama li chaim, why do I want to live? Or when she doesn't want Yaakov to marry the girls of the place, why will I want to live? Like very intense language these matriarchs use. I'm going to die if I don't have children. And Yaakov, how does he respond to Rachel? He's what? Vayicharaf Yaakov, he's upset at her. What do you think about this? Why is Yaakov upset at Rachel? Did he respond in the right way? Okay, so why is he upset? He says he's using logic. What do you want from me? I have children. He's using logic. It's not I don't want to give you children. Here I am with you this night and this night. And you don't get pregnant. What do you want from me? That's one way of explaining. Another way of explaining that I read this here and it's very interesting. Yaakov is telling Rachel, you know, what do you mean I don't want to live? Life, it's important to have children, but life is more than that. A woman, and this is a very good message for us, and for women when they're mothers, they put all their essence in being a mother. A woman is more than a mother. Yes, maternity is very important, but it's one of the areas of being a woman. You also have to connect with Hashem. You can also do chesed. You can also do mitzvot. It's not only being a mother. What do you mean I don't want to live? There is more than that. But to make it short, Chachamim criticize Yaakov. And they say, this is not the way to answer to the person that is suffering. What do you mean? Doesn't matter what is the logic. Other Mefarshim would say, no, Yaakov wanted her to pray. What? You don't answer like that. What was Yaakov lacking? What is the word? Empathy. He lacked the sensibility, the empathy. I'm sorry, I know it's hard for you. Come and hug her and be with her. Be with her. This is what a person that is suffering needs in that moment. He doesn't need to tell him, oh, you know what? Go and check with the doctor who is to blame. Or that doesn't matter. I'm suffering. And this is what I want. And in the middle of the parasha, exactly in the middle, Hashem listens to Rachel. It's beautiful to have a whole shiur only about the name of the children. But she gets pregnant and she has Yosef. And she gives Yosef a name that has a double connotation. Yosef from Asaf, Asaf Elohim et Cherpati. Hashem gathered my busha, my shame. She felt ashamed that she wasn't able to be pregnant. That's how her suffering was. And at the same time, she has a child, she's already dreaming of having another one with the same root, Yosef li Hashem ben Acher. And I hope, Hashem, that you will give me another one. We know how tragic it is, the second child of Rachel. Whenever she has her second child, it's going to be already after they left her parents' house, and she's going to die giving birth when she gives birth to Binyamin. Very tragic. It seems that the death of Rachel is connected to a curse that Yaakov is cursing, because when they are leaving the house of Lavan, Rachel steals from her father some statues that he had, the teraphim, and she hides them under the camel. And when Lavan comes and searches in their property to see who stole them, Yaakov gets so upset that Lavan is suspecting him that he kind of curses if somebody has it. And that's what happens to Rachel. But I didn't want to finish the class with something negative. Say something nice. How do we finish the class? So we see how the Bet Israel is from the children of Yaakov, I learned something new this year that I said, wow, and with this I'm going to finish. So Leah and Rachel had at the same time two shfachot, right? Two servants, Zilpah and Bilhah, and they have children with them. So one of the Midrashim tells us what is the reason that we went to Egypt and we were slaves in Egypt? Because the children of Yaakov, for the time being, were like in two different levels. Bnei Gvidot and Bnei Shfachot, the children of the ladies and the children of the servant. And Hashem wanted all of them to be in the equal level of Bnei Israel. So to create equality, we have to go to servitude. And then there was no, I'm better than you and you're better than me. That's one of the explanations, but I think it's interesting. And it's a new thing. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being here. And I want to wish everyone Shabbat Shalom Umevorach. Okay?
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you, girls. Bye-bye.